Hello, and coming to you with breaking news. You probably know ICE has been chasing people in cars and sadly killed two separate drivers, one in Texas, one in Maine, neither of whom was the target of some kind of ICE enforcement necessity in the past week. Well, earlier this year, as you would know, ICE officers killed two Americans in separate incidents in Minnesota. And it seemed with the significant backlash, even from some Republicans, and the exit of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, the chasing of random dark-skinned, Latino-looking men was no longer an open hunt. But new Secretary of Homeland Security Mark Wayne Mullen has clearly been okay with re-upping the aggressive tactics, knowing full well that the Republicans on Capitol Hill don't want to exercise any oversight of the Trump administration. But now the two Hispanic men who were not the original targets of the ICE operations have been shot and killed in less than a week. And with aftermath video being broadcast and limited anti-ICE protests, the Trump administration has acted. For a few weeks, probably, ICE agents are not to chase would-be targets randomly via big SUVs. Of course, every situation is different. But some in the administration seem to think all those scores of people they ran through little ICE training and understanding of constitutional requirements need more training, beyond breaking windows and dragging people out of cars and shooting them. Now, the president will speak to the nation Thursday night. A few months ahead of midterm elections, the best we know, this will be an address about whatever's been put into his head. What we don't know is how much he'll talk about Iran rather than how much Iran's leaders are so anxious for a deal.
I wanted to give them a chance at making a deal. We had a deal 2 days ago. It was done. And then all of a sudden, they couldn't do it. They didn't like something about the deal. They couldn't do it. And they shot first. And that was a big mistake that they shot first because we have been knocking the hell out of them. They're very difficult people.
The president has changed, rechanged, returned, undone the return to policy about Iran so much. And in particular, with what happens to oil output, still a big sticking point for average Americans who did not start the conflict, even if Iran should be handing over its nuclear ambitions apparatus pieces. We can expect great pronouncements about border security in the speech, the echoes of which will soothe the hundreds of people being deported off to who knows where. Mr. Trump is promising something amazing about the midterm elections, and it's bound to center on voter ID or security. There is no indication the numbers on Capitol Hill have changed in regarding to the languishing SAVE Act for which not enough Republicans are willing to vote. And with 36 years in covering national issues out of Washington, I wanted to talk about Senator Lindsey Graham. His time in Congress started around my time in roaming the halls of Congress as well as covering the White House. With that much experience, you were absolutely going to have contact with Lindsey Graham a lot of times somewhere along the way. He was never rude and usually would stop to talk with reporters on just about anything. What I want to mention, though, is Graham was a short-term candidate for president in 2016. And I was there in North Charleston a few days after the first GOP presidential primary debate to witness Graham endorse Jeb Bush, almost as a hedge against Trump actually being able to gain momentum in the GOP primaries that year. At that political moment, Graham feared a Trump presidency. Let's fast forward to the first Trump term where Graham gave support and advice to Mr. Trump in order to be an influencer. Then after the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, Graham took to the Senate floor to announce he was out of here, as he said, meaning he could not accept what the president had done to rile up a mob that day. But Lindsey Graham softened enough in the 4 years of Biden administration to be willing to do whatever it was to stay influential should Donald Trump regain the White House in 2024. Graham became a reliable ally on domestic matters, but tried to broaden what history would say about him when it came to foreign policy and national security. Trump treated him like a lapdog a lot of times, and by and large, Graham agreed with domestic policies put forth by the Trump administration. Graham would only hold firm on foreign policy matters, including hoping to turn Trump's unwillingness to help Ukraine win against Russia or to fight Trump's desires to blow up NATO. Lindsey Graham, the guy who was easy for Joe Biden and John McCain to be with on major matters, found himself scraping along to keep the sometimes dismissive attitude of Donald Trump. With Ear on the White House, I'm Bob Costantini.